Hi, in this episode of SmarTalk TV, we have a great entrepreneur, Ibrahim Ezzeddine, co-founder of Cherpa with Basil Jalaluddin. Am I right?
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes, that's it.
That's the team?
Yep. There's also a team behind that also. But Basil and I are the co-founders of Cherpa.
Now you'll tell us about the team, and I like your attitude of immediately mentioning the team, because a lot of founders tend to forget that.
It's the most important part.
It's the most important part. Ibrahim, what is Cherpa?
So Cherpa is an e-learning platform for teenagers. And we offer courses like robotics, coding, and we target the youth in order to prepare them for the skills that are going to be needed in the next 5 years to 10 years.
So robotics.
So right now we're starting with the robotics course.
Okay, so that's the first one.
Yes.
And coding.
And coding. And next we started an AI course for teens. And this is like, we're focusing the first phase, if you will, on the technical, like the tech for teens, yeah. And introducing them to what's really happening in the world today, and start preparing them at.
Do you take old people like me, or just teenagers?
Sure. Welcome.
What age group?
So we're talking about mainly 12 to 18.
Okay.
There are courses that are specified to even the 12 to 18 is split into several categories and age groups. So this is the age group that we're starting with, yeah.
And everything is given in English, in Arabic?
So we're starting in English right now, but in a couple of months it will be offered in Arabic and French.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And where?
So we're going to start here in Lebanon and then move to the GCC in terms of, that explains the Arabic language.
The Arabic language. Yeah. But let's say, okay, I want to send my kids to Cherpa. Where do I send my kids?
So you don't actually send them anywhere.
Okay.
It's an online platform. So what we do is we partner with schools, with academies, centers, for them to provide the course to teenagers. So you basically, if you want to teach your child Cherpa, like a course using Cherpa, you would either subscribe at home. You'll start taking the course at home, or you send your child to a school that is giving Cherpa inside as a class, or like a center or an academy. And especially in the summer camps now, there are a lot of academies that are using Cherpa that you can try it out.
So do you see yourself more as a B2B or a B2C?
So yeah, that's a good question. We're starting with B2B. It's easier, and it's better for us to focus on the platform itself, and we're learning a lot from the schools and the academies. And after that, we will launch a B2C model where we target parents at home. Yeah.
Did you already sign up schools?
Yes, so we have already schools on board. We have paying users, paying students. It's going really well. Now we're currently in the private beta mode. We've selected schools, we're testing with them, and we're launching this summer as a public platform.
Before we go on with Cherpa and your experience on entrepreneurship, because SmarTalk TV is also about lessons learned.
Yep.
Are schools? Are you feeling schools are? They say in Arabic, "وعيوا على الشغلة." Do you feel they're responding? Is this something they're starting to be aware of?
So we all agree that schools are outdated, and they've been teaching the same subjects.
Let's say it's a challenge.
Yeah.
You want to sell to them?
Yeah. I mean. At least in Lebanon, where we're testing, and a couple of countries in the GCC, there is a demand from schools to start introducing courses like robotics and coding. And this is a great thing to see. And it's a great opportunity also to be in those countries that are starting to realize how important those subjects are and how important the students should be aware of at a young age. So I would say that schools, there is like awareness from schools and parents that there is a need, and I mean, it's great. It's just starting.
I mean, we will lose the education war if we don't start teaching our kids.
Yes.
These things. I'm a big fan. So.
Yeah. So there's a famous saying where if you didn't know how to read and write 20 years back, you would. That's like a literate person. And in 20 years, if you don't learn how to at least code, or that's gonna be.
It's the basics.
Yeah. Yeah.
What type of languages in coding?
So at a young age, we start by dragging and dropping blocks. It's just to introduce the concept how to communicate with the computer. And then after that, we go into several languages. For example, JavaScript. It's a simple language that just to get their hands dirty with coding. Then we move to a basic C language, like a very enhanced, simplified C language for kids.
But what differentiates you from Udemy or Coursera or all these teaching platforms that are out there?
So Udemy and Coursera and Udacity and all of those platforms offer real-life skills. They put you on a learning path. It's perfect. However, they do not target teenagers, youth. So they're targeting more adults.
Mature audience.
Yes, to make them prepared to take on a job directly. We see a great opportunity in teenagers. We think that if we start teaching them today, the skills that are going to be needed in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be not just beneficial for them, it's also going to be beneficial for other companies like Udacity, because Udacity need, for example, prerequisites. If we can prepare those students to have those prerequisites to take the self-driving course, for example, that'd be cool. And yeah, so we target youth, which they kind of don't, and yeah.
But are the courses? You guys are creating the courses, or it's internal.
Yeah. So what we do is we come up with a course. Let's say, for example, robotics. We contact experts in the field. So, for example, in robotics, we have 4 themes: smart cities, automation, drones, and astronomy. And we kind of show the students where robotics is applied in astronomy. And to do that, we're not astronauts or so. So we contact experts at NASA. So we have a postdoc at NASA that designed the missions in the robotics in astronomy. And what we do is we take those missions. We have educators in the team. So we package them into an educational tool to be presented in schools.
Please tell me it's fun to do.
It's epic. You should try it out. We've been testing it in schools, and they're loving it.
Because that's the key to teach. It's key, the edutainment part of it.
Correct. Like gamification of education. What we always sit down with game developers just to understand what makes a game like a game. What is it that when students finish their studies, they go and pick up a game? So, and how can we take those features and apply them to any other subject, which would make rather learning a much more fun experience. And this is what we've been doing, and gamifying every course that we do, and linking it to a real-life application. So you're not just coding a turtle that is moving on the screen. You're coding a satellite that you should put into orbit. You're controlling a rover on Mars that's analyzing.
Yeah, you're giving purpose to the child. The kid. It's not a child that's learning. I'm going to step out a little bit of my neutral TV interviewer, but it is something critical. It's a public service at the end of the day that it should be adapted in the curriculum. Have you spoken to the Ministry of Education? So
we are in talks with the ministry, and we're going to pilot in a couple of public schools starting next year. They do realize that this is an essential skill that should be taught to all students. Governments around the world already realize that and force that into the curriculum. It's starting to be seen in the government here. I wouldn't say it started. We're in the starting point.
Early stages of.
Yeah, and especially that we're promised that there will be internet connection in all public schools. So this will be also helpful to deploy the platform.
To be fair to the Ministry of Education in Lebanon, they have a good team. And they realize the need.
Yes.
Money is always lacking, but we'll get there. how did Cherpa start? I mean, why did you do Cherpa? How did this adventure start? Let's start. Who are you and who's Basil? What's your backgrounds?
So, I come from an educational background more. Like, my family has a school. My house is inside the school.
Poor you.
What?
It must be horrible.
I listen to like teachers all the time, especially when I'm in the room and like bells all the time. So I've been surrounded by educators, classrooms since I was born.
But were you a good student?
Sometimes. So, and I've been to schools like outside of Lebanon. I've been in South Africa for a couple of years, in the UK, and I've seen education like on a global scale. And I've realized there was kind of a common problem that could be tackled, and there was an opportunity. When I was in university, I met Basil Jalaluddin, which is the co-founder, and he shared the same passion, and we shared the same goals. So, and we were both interested in robotics in particular. So, I remember at university we started the robotics club together.
What did you guys study?
So I'm a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Basil is a computer engineer.
Okay.
So we were actually roommates in university. We worked on lots of projects. Fun and for courses.
Oh,
and
solid team.
Yeah.
You know each other.
We do, yeah. And so at the final year, we had to do a final year project. And so we thought that if we want to work 1 year to submit a project, it better be a good project. And we weren't doing it for the sake of a grade. We're doing it for the sake of we should identify a problem, try to solve it, and continue after we graduate. So we both had plans even before we graduate that we're not going to go into like the corporate and apply for a normal job. So we started working on because at that time we've been teaching a lot of robotics classes, and we've identified a problem there. And we thought that if we could do like a kit that could make it easier to introduce robotics to children, that would be great. And this is what this is how it started. It started as a hardware startup actually, and then it evolved and pivoted. So.
But that's I think it's very interesting because most startups start somewhere and end up somewhere else. I mean, you're still at the beginning of the road with Cherpa, and will probably still evolve as it goes, and that's perfectly normal. I think it's interesting for other entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs. At what time did you feel you needed to shift? You needed that pivot? Because it's not always easy. Sometimes you can be totally discouraged, I guess.
It was. So what happened was we thought that this is the kit that we want to build, hardware kit. We did the first prototype. It took a lot of time and effort. We did the second prototype. We got the kit, we manufactured the PCBs from in China. We got the components from the US. We assembled here in Lebanon. It was a long, tough road. And after we got to the second prototype and we tested it in classrooms, we realized that there were a lot of problems that we couldn't have discovered if we didn't have the prototype. So, and it was, it would have costed a lot. It didn't make sense in the educational terms, and it was a perfect decision to pivot into a solution that made sense more.
And this is why it's called a prototype, is to test.
Yeah, and the most important part is that to start, and we couldn't have realized that if we didn't prototype fast enough and test on the ground. So I would say what made us the decision of pivoting came from students. So they told us that the product, and we saw that on the ground. So testing was the number one thing that we always do. We always test, and this will guide the product to. So
it was a natural evolution that you saw from your clients at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah.
And users. I fully agree with you. People tend to forget to test, and in many interviews with successful entrepreneurs, that's one of the key lessons they tell us is to go test in the market. Don't just speak about it.
Yeah.
You were at Speed, Accelerator.
Yes.
This was with the hardware or directly with Cherpa?
So we started and we applied with the hardware product. During the accelerator, in the middle of the acceleration period, actually, we realized that. And this is the cool thing about accelerators. They literally accelerate the process of prototyping. So we did 2 prototypes. We quickly identified that it was not, and we pivoted. So we started as a hardware. We ended at the demo day with Cherpa.
That's what accelerators are for.
Yeah.
To help you.
Yes.
So I take it you had a good experience with an accelerator.
It was great.
With speed, I mean.
Yeah. So because we were just graduating, so we had no idea how to start a company.
The learning curve
Oh
was.
my God! Yes. So from the business side, we were both engineers. Like we didn't know how to pitch an idea, how to market for it, how to like all the financials related to it, and how to incorporate at the end. So there was a lot of learning experience. It was really good. We benefited a lot, especially from the mentors and the advisors that were on board that helped us on a weekly basis. So it was perfect for us. Yeah.
What happened? I mean, you got. So this is how did you fund yourself?
So this was the first funding.
Speed gives you
yes, 30K in cash and 30K in kind. And this was the first like funding, if you will, to this project.
It got you to your prototype, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So it got us to the prototype, and we had to test an initial prototype of Cherpa. After that, we got the ISME grant, and Speed has a deal with ISME. So we got the 15K grant from ISME. And then Speed also has this initiative called the Seed Boost competition, where they get 5 different investors to invest in one startup. And this is a 50K investment, which we won. So this got us the third investment in Cherpa. And the rest were competitions. So we won the Best Youth Award in GITEX, which is 15K. And
so that gave you enough to kickstart your project.
Yeah. So in total, it was a total of $110,000. It was enough to build the prototype.
What year was that?
Which one?
The whole. I mean, it took you how long to raise that 100?
So we started in Speed in March 2017, and then along the way, so we started like every 3 months. Like the next 3 months, we got the Seed Boost. Next month, we got the ISME. The next 4 months, we got the.
That's pretty cool.
GITEX, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Take me through Cherpa in a few years.
So the cool thing about what we're doing is that we're introducing to young people, young students, teenagers, what technology will be in the next 5 years. And this is changing very fast. And there are new technologies that are coming every year. And like there are always new content for us to develop and offer the students. So what I see Cherpa doing in the next couple of years is making sure that the students don't only graduate as grade 12 students, but they graduate as students that are ready to take on the world around them. And I believe there is a missing subject in schools. So if you go to the definition of a school, it states that it's an organization that allows students to understand their surrounding. And look at your surrounding now. It's all tech. So you have mobile phones, tablets, drones, self-driving cars. It's insane. So there's a missing element into education, which we are not preparing well. So if we can make sure that students are being prepared for this huge missing sector, we would reach our goal, basically.
Do you foresee that people will they still go to university? If you know how to code today, you can get a job.
Correct.
You can get a very well-paid job.
Yes. But here's the thing about universities. It's not just about like the technical skills that you're getting, because you can always learn that online. It's like the people you meet, because you're
absolutely
your
right.
character is evolving. You can start learning, like you can homeschool yourself from when you're grade age of 3 or 4, and you can disregard school and universities. But what's great about schools and universities, I would say, is the social interaction that you get with your colleagues. That you need. There are soft skills that are essential that you don't get online, like teamwork, collaboration, and this is an essential part of what one of the essential parts what universities at least offers, and like connections, because you are gathered in one major with like-minded people. Those are people that will co-found your companies, your future companies. You will not find them anywhere else. So, yeah.
Let's take a step in, zoom in a little bit, and talk about the execution, a bit more about the execution of Cherpa. Let's start from the beginning. When you partnered, and you told us you were roommates with Basil, did you immediately guys sign a shareholder agreement or a founders agreement? Sorry, were you guys, how did that relation set up? Because a lot of times, this is where it starts hurting.
Yeah. So when I first met Basil, it was in actually the dorms at LAU. And the relationship started to evolve and by itself. So we identified like we're both have the same interest. We started hanging out together, building like robots and doing pranks at the university and like doing random stuff that we both liked. It then evolved to working on projects together. And we really knew how to work together because he was really good at one thing and I was really good at the other. And we perfectly fit into being like a team. We didn't know that we were going to start a company eventually, but we really knew how to work in a team to deliver a project. Eventually, we started the robotics club, Basil and I, and it was obvious at that time that we knew how to manage a club at least. It's a small club at university, but it has all the elements into like you're starting something new and
it's your prototype.
Yeah, it's a prototype for a startup
of your relation.
Yeah. So at the end, we realized that we both knew how to work well, and we shared a common vision, and it was perfect for us to continue with that. We did not sign any SHA between each other, and this is essential, because if you go into partnering with someone and you need a document to build a trust, I would say this is weaker than two persons trusting each other from a very young age and then evolving together. Eventually, we do have SHAs now, like after we incorporate, which makes everything legal and all of that. But this is what makes, I would say, the bond between co-founders really
trust.
Yes.
How do you handle conflicts? I mean, it's inherent to any relation.
Of course. Every relationship has its own conflicts. What I would start with is that Basil handles one thing which I don't particularly interfere with, which is the technical side. He manages the technical team. He knows very well how to deliver on that. I'm more into the business side of the startup, and I manage the team over there, and we're doing that. We meet. Basil and I, to just update ourselves. What are the deadlines? Are we meeting the deadlines? We do sometimes go into ideas where we conflict or contradict each other. We do that by just brainstorming. We stop at a certain point. Let's brainstorm. Why are we doing what we're doing? And what decision will allow us to reach the next point? Sometimes he wins the conversation, sometimes I do. It's something perfectly normal, but I would say is that we learned how to listen to each other. And this is something that...
I love how you call it, he wins or I win the conversation. It shows that there's also always that trust remains in the boundaries, but inside it's passion.
I mean, yeah, the best idea will win eventually. It's not.
The more passionate.
Yeah.
How did you get your first schools? I mean, your first clients. How did that happen?
So
You start. You have your product. What do you do?
So, as I mentioned before, my family has a school, so it was the perfect test lab since day one. But the real school, like
But that's a real school. I mean, I'm cutting you here because a lot of people have the answer right next door and tend not to look at it sometimes. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's no shame in looking at right next door.
yeah. I mean, there was a classroom and there were students. This is a school. It's a perfect test lab. I can like do mistakes here. I can learn from it before going into outside schools and start learning. But what was really satisfying is when we got the first, like we pitched to a school and we got the first like dollars from a school that doesn't know about us, that it's not part of the family or so, and it's satisfying for us and for all the team, like because all of the work that we're doing and eventually is paying off. And this is we didn't just prove that the product is cool and is needed. It's actually.
How did you get that school?
So when we were confident enough into releasing it, going and pitching to schools, we just like start calling schools one by one and setting meetings. And eventually, we sat with one school. We pitched the idea.
I'm asking the question because a lot of times there's this question is, at what point of maturity of my product do I go knock on the door of the clients? And some people wait too much and they're beaten. Some wait too early, go too early. When do you know is the right moment?
So we laid down the product roadmap and the evolution of the product. And we said that at this point, the product will deliver the minimum that it could. Like without those features, the product doesn't work.
The core features.
Yes. As soon as we had that, and it was a clear roadmap to us. There were a lot of cool features that we could have used to sell more or to make at least the selling process easier. But we would have waited too long for that. We wanted to do a class that a robotics class in a school, and those are the minimum features that would allow the school to pay for it. We're going now. And there was a debate actually. Do we wait? Do we go now? And do we? We actually started pitching to schools before the product was ready, and we now have schools on board for the next year. There are still features that are being developed. So
That's very important. I think it's for all the other entrepreneurs. It's really think about the product roadmap. What features do you release when? Because this is strategic, and it's not just trying to put everything now into one thing. How do you? I mean, you did raise $110,000, but still, how are you handling your cash? How do you look at after cash? Are you operating very low costs?
So we're efficient.
Did you buy a limousine?
Well, no. So what we do is we try as much as we can to know what is it that we are paying for, like reverse engineering the product. We want this by this date. What is the team that is required to reach this point? And do we need an office for that? And what are the prerequisites to reach this point? We reverse engineer that, and we try as much as we can to go at every single point and know how can we save and be efficient on that. Because it's very tricky because when you have this sum of money, it's very easy to go wild and start hiring engineers and the best engineers and going crazy on marketing. But I would say because you need to, before you raise your next round, you need to have a product that is solid, you need to have a team that is solid, and you need to have clients that are paying. And since day one, we said that this is where we want to reach and before fundraising, because we don't want the fund to end before we reach this point. And this is how so a lot of Most of our team actually is underpaid, and they all know that, and they do all understand that. And this is what actually makes a great team, because they believe in what we're doing.
Did you give them shares?
So part of the team we have a vesting
Plan.
for the team, vesting plan for the team, and some prove that they have valid input. They have like really input to the strategy of the company that is essential, and like we need them in the company. It is one thing that is sure to consider the first. Like, what is the core team? What is it that the team that you would love to see 5 or 10 years from now still around?
Ibrahim Ezzeddine, thank you. It was very, very interesting. I wish you all the best, because I think Cherpa is needed in schools. It's really something that and you're contributing basically to build an ecosystem, to build a country, to build an economy. So work well, build a great startup, and we'll sit down again to see where you stand.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibrahim.